Hello and welcome. My name is Jesper, and today I'll walk you through my critical written reflection titled The Parasite, the Host. My critical written reflection focuses on 3 different parasitic relationships and compares them to the semester project I worked on along the way. The 3 different parasites I've analyzed and will present for you today are the galls or seagulls, a virus, and a fetus. These parasites have individual and unique ways of interacting with their hosts, which, when analyzed, inform my decisions and my understanding of my project I created this semester. I will begin this talk by mentioning the theories by Bateson and Guattari in their book 1,000 Plateaus. In the first chapter, Introduction, a Rhizome, they do exactly that. They introduce a rhizome. In biology, we define a rhizome as the roots of a mushroom in the wild. These roots are constantly growing and interconnected in a dense, undefinable system. Bateson and Guattari introduces a more theoretically rhizome that is, however, based on the same basic ideas of a non-linear, ever-growing system with either beginning or an end. Everything is connected and should be connected. How does this bring us to the subject of parasites? As I mentioned in my critical written reflection, one could argue that the role as part of a rhizome can be defined in different ways. In complementary behavior, one party provides the necessary ingredients to the other. While the ingredient might be reinforcing or stabilizing in some instances, it often leads to hostility or schizogenesis. I approached it using Kelly Easterling's paper Dispositions. She argues that the world deals with dispositions. You could go as far as to say that she states that nothing exists on its own. A parasite and a host can be seen as parts in a larger rhizome, but a parasite cannot exist without a host, and the host is not a host without a parasite. These theories led me to investigate the relationship between parasite and host. Does a parasite exist on its own, either before or after interacting with its host? Does the parasite evolve into a rhizome on its own when leaving the host, thus becoming a rhizome and no longer being a parasite? Before I could determine or even understand the relationship of my project's parasite and host, I, as mentioned in the beginning, went about investigating 3 different parasitic relationships. Seagulls are a well-known creature. They are parasites of the city. They have adapted their way of living to live in almost harmony with humans and living off the things that they can scavenge in the city. They are a parasite that hides in plain sight. Most of you would probably have seen a situation where food is left on the street and all of a sudden what feels like thousands of seagulls swoop in and fight for the food. However, the example of the seagulls also introduces us to a parasitic relationship where the dynamic can shift. Seagulls scream. In the city of Aarhus, this has created the problem of extreme noise in buildings where the seagull uses the roof to nest. Local hunters have therefore been allowed to shoot the seagulls at sight. The parasite no longer lives in balance with the city. The second example is the fetus. We've all been there. The relationship between a mother and her child in the womb is almost mythical, but maybe there's more to it than meets the eye. Scientists have for years linked the process of pregnancy and childbirth with various positive effects on a mother's health. They've been looking at mothers with male cells in their body, as these cells are easy to distinguish from the mother's own. These male cells have been linked to the prolonged living of some women. A Danish study has in fact shown that 85% of women with male cells present lived to the age of 80. Whereas only 67% of the ones without the cells did. The cells have also been linked to the curing of various diseases. Some doctors argue that being pregnant can have a vaccine-like effect on the female body. Examples include the diminishing of rheumatoid arthritis for up to 15 years, as well as one example of a mother being cured for hepatitis C. So the parasite is actually providing the host with valuable information. The last example is the virus, an opposite to a parasite living in harmony with the host, a parasite fighting the host. A present example would be the coronavirus, or COVID-19, a parasite killing of hosts in numbers. A virus is reliable on a host, however the coronavirus is killing its host, and thereby killing itself. It's failing. The virus originated in a different species, where it had already succeeded in living in a symbiotic relationship with its host. Now, the parasite needs to evolve and adapt to its new host to ensure its own life, as well as the life of its host. Now, how does all this information inform my semester project? To understand that, and to understand my project, I will start by taking you through the world of my parasite. We're in Hamburg in the year 2066. The city is controlled by a governing body named the Citadel. All the inhabitants in the city live in pods, where they also spend their entire life. They're provided with a cryptocurrency that they can spend on food and entertainment. The Citadel is meanwhile gathering data from the inhabitants. To, in the end, be able to develop the perfect AI to leave humans redundant. In the midst of all this, the scavengers have risen. The outsiders. People that have broken out of the system and now do what they can to survive. They scavenge the city for parts to build their machines. They gather data to sell to the Citadel in exchange for food. They are parasites, or are they? I used my critical written reflection as a tool throughout this semester, while writing and rewriting along the way. I went over theories and phrases and changed them and deleted them, but without removing anything from the text. The critical written reflection then became an archive of my evolution in understanding the parasite. This also emphasizes the idea of this critical written reflection being a rhizome without an end or without a conclusion. So instead of giving you a conclusion of my findings in my critical written reflection, because there are none, I will instead read to you the last state for the parasitic relationship in my project. Brilliant 12, May 19th, 2020. The parasitic relationship has now reached a stage where the human and his machine has become part of the city, by rebuilding themselves as a physical part of the city. They have become a parasite in a destruction relationship. They have become a parasite in a destructive relationship with their host, where the goal is the destruction of the host and the survival of the parasites. The human are, however, also forming a host in relationship with the other scavengers of the city, that now connect and rely on the human for survival and guidance. The human has now existed in numerous relationships as both host and parasite. Thank you.